You people are getting my voice clearly. Yes? Can anybody put it in chat? Okay, good. Thank you. And so this is the point where our discussion stopped in the last session. Like we were putting another class called the second in the same source code file, and I'm going to add a main method inside it. Now we'll change some text information from these classes. Let me remove this. I'll call as this is main of first. I'll copy this line, Control C. Okay, so and here I will call it as main of second. Now let let me quick questions. What do you think? What will happen? It will compile or not? Quick answers in the chat box. Okay, it will compile. It will compile. Good. Three answers. So it's going to compile. It is going to compile. Let's try. So CAC first dot Java. Sorry, it's like C sharp compile. I'm using a wrong compiler. Java C first dot Java. It will compile the file. Okay, error expected. What I did was something wrong. Yeah, I haven't put a opening and closing bracket for the main method. So that was an unexpected thing. So let's compile. Compiled. Now, if you see the directory, you will find two class files are created, one for the second and one for the first. So if you add one more class in your file, if you add one more class in your source code, let's say class third, then after compiling this first.java file, you'll find three dot class files are getting created. So when you compile any Java program or any Java source code file, it creates separate dot class file for each class. Sure. So now, next question is, if I want to execute, let's say, if I say how we execute a program in case of a Java is we type Java and then the class name with which want to execute. Now it executes. Now, if I type Java space second and if I hit enter, now what do you think? It will execute or it will not execute? If I just say Java space second and if I hit enter, it is going to execute or not? It will. Yes, what it's correct. So one answer. Any other answer? Fine. So that's going to work. It is going to execute and it's going to display output on the screen. It will. Okay, fine. So let me close the chat box and hit enter. So this is main of second. So it works, right? Now, instead of having a main method, what we will do is another thing. Before that, what I'll do in my directory is right now I have two dot class files in my directory, which is first dot class and second dot class. So instead of having two dot class file, I will remove this dot class files using del command. I'll say star dot class. Now there is no dot class file. Now I've deleted all pre-compiled version of my dot class file, and there is only source code first dot Java. So what we will do is I will, instead of writing a main method in this class, I'll write a method called as void. Uh, let me call this method as static void uh, data, right? And let me say something inside this method. Print line. This is data method. Now in Java, the style to call this static method is you have to use the class name and the method name. In C++, we you have used the style like second, then colon, colon, then the method that we want to call. This was the second is a style of C++, which is replaced by Java with this new style. The class name, then the dot operator, and then the method name, which is static. If data is not a static method, then we need to create an object. For this particular section, I will be avoiding how to create an object in Java. We'll see that part soon. Now what we are doing in this program is we are creating two classes, class first, class second. Class first have a main method and it is calling a method called as data from the class second. The class second is present in the same file, same source code file, and the method is it has a method called as static void data, and we are calling the method. Let's try to compile and execute. So I'll say cls java c first dot java compiles, then I'll say Java first. So it executes. This is main of first. This is data method, right? Let me show you the dir directory. Dir, you will find there is a file called as first.class. There is also a file called as second.class. So two separate .class files are again created. Then we'll do one modification in the source code. The modification is what we will do. We will take this entire code and we will delete it. Now my source code file do not have a definition of class called as data, right? It do not have the definition called as data. Now if I compile this version of the program, what do you think? What will happen? Quick answers in chat box again. It will compile or not? I need quick answers in the chat window. Error. Okay, Harshit Doshi says error. Sakshi Ranglani saying also error. Okay, any other answers? Tejaswini saying error. Aditya error. Okay. Mitali is also saying error. Okay, good. So let's try. Sadia is also saying error. And Namrata, okay, fine. So many people are giving the answer as error. Now what we will do is we'll try it. Let me take this window here a bit, and I'll keep the chat box up here. So let me clear the screen and then type Java C first dot Java. It compiles. It compiles, guys. So let me show you the dir. Can you see the first dot class file is present? Now, if I say Java first, what will be the output? What do you think? Try deleting the second dot class file. Harshit Doshi is saying try deleting second dot class file. So I never said about deleting the file and compile again. So Harshit Doshi is saying that I have to delete the second dot class file and then compile it again. Fine. Any other answers? What about now? It will execute or not? You will get the output second. This is the second or this is the data method on the screen or not? Of course, we are going to get a data method output on the screen. So the point here is Java is a modular language. Because of second dot class file it will execute. Okay, fine. So Java is a modular language. That is the point that I want to take here. When what happens is when you people write a program, and if let's say I make a reference to the class second, I have made a reference to the class second. Let's restore the class. Okay, I guess that has been deletion was permanent. I'll write class second, and I'll keep this class as empty. Now see, let's go to the dir. You have first dot class file, you have second dot class file, old second dot class file, and you have a new source code in which there is also a class called as second. What will happen? It will compile, or now it will give error. It will compile or error now. Error. Error. Right. So here everybody has to understand. Now the point here is I have seen many students struggling with the standard libraries of Java many times. We are going to start with soon. Like we will have to use standard libraries while writing our application programs. Maybe immediately in the next lecture, we will start with using standard packages and standard classes. So sometimes what happens is you people give a name to your class, which is from the standard library. And when you compile your program, the dot class file of your class is getting created. And then it gets messed up with the standard library. And then you start getting error, many errors. I've seen this lots and lots of time. So uh, the point here is when you compile a Java source code, what compiler does is it looks for the main method for the in the class which we are going to start. Then it starts conversion, and as soon as it finds that there is a reference to another class, the first thing Java compiler does is it looks for the definition or the source code for that particular class in the same file. It does look for that source code in the same file. Right. Let me try another flavor. Before discussing this point. Let me control X. So my first.java file do not have any definition of second. Let me go to the directory, clear the screen. I'll say del star.class. All class files are deleted. Now I have only one file, which is first.java. I'll open up Notepad. I'll say second.java. And in this one, I'll write second class second, and then I'll say static void data, and I'll add the definition. Let's add the definition. The definition is this is data method. Now if you check into the directory, there is a first.java and second.java. Public nahi kelela Aditya covered class. Okay, I have not used public keyword anywhere. So that's point. Fair point. Public nahi kelela. I am not going to make it public. So fine. So we will see about access modifiers in more discussions. Not now. It has a deep meaning. Java has a very tricky access modifiers. We are going to talk about them in detail in one of the sessions. An entire session or maybe two sessions has to be dedicated to just understand access modifiers. So in some other lecture, we will talk about public in a short time, not now, but about any other details. So now if I compile Java C and if I say first.java, what do you think? Whether it will compile or not? Now, what you have is you have two separate files, first.java and second.java. And then I'm going to say Java C first.java. And what we are doing in first.java is we are calling a method of a second class, but that source code is not present in the same file. And then I'm going to compile it. It will compile or not? What are your answers? Error second need to be pre-compiled. Okay, fine. Harshit Doshi says second error need to be, it will compile. Error, Shardul is saying error. Harshit Doshi saying, okay, fine. Error from Nikhil Jugai, error is the answer. Okay, any other? Second will compile, will give error. Shubham Jain is also saying error. Any other answers? Fine. So let's try. Let's try. Sorry. Can you see it compiles? It compiles, guys. And let me again show you dir. So see, first dot class is also present and second dot class is also present. So second dot java file is automatically compiled. Let me prove this again. Somebody may think that I've done some trick. So let me delete all class files. So we have only two .java files, first.java and second.java, and I'm going to directly compile first.java file. Once it compiles, if we see dir, you'll find first.class as well as second.class. So it does compile. Now let's go back to the point that I was explaining. When you write a source code in a file, and if you compile, if you make a reference to other class in the main method other than the class in which you are writing a main method. So first class we are already referring, that's fine. So it's going to create a first.class file and it knows where to find first class. But when you refer a second dot data, when you refer a second class, what JavaC will do is JavaC will look for its definition in the same file or in the second.java file. If it do not find that, then it will look for second.class file. When it finds a second.class file, it will refer it. If it finds the second definition in the same file, it will recompile the second.class class file. It will regenerate it by recompiling. If it do not find the source code in the same file, then it will look for second.java file and then recompiles the second.java file and generates a second.class file. If it do not find the source code in the same file or a second.java file, then it refers, it will check whether there is a second.class file in this present in the same directory or not. If it finds the second.class file, then it will use it. If it do not find any of these three, like the second is not present in the same source code, there is no second.java file, and there is also no second.class file. Only in that case, the program will generate an error. Otherwise, it will manage it. So that's how Java is very modular. Why we can use string args in main method. Tejaswini Podar. Okay. Why we can use string args in the main method? That's a standard signature. You try compiling, removing this. We are going to talk about this. It's argument. Let me give a quick demo. What do you mean by string dot arguments out println? I'll say args of 0 here. Sorry. And what I'll do is I'll say javac first dot java. I'll recompile it. I'll say java first, right? And I'll say 233. Can you see the 33 on the screen coming? Tejaswini, can you see the 33 coming displayed on the screen? Yes. So where we are passing this 33, we are passing this 33 as an argument. So for those argument purpose, we are using the string args. I was planning to discuss about this in much detail in later sessions because we have to deal first with the array. Then we have to understand why this string args. Now, if it has triggered the discussion, let me ask one more question. The question is why this args is a string array? Why not to make it an integer array? When I'm accessing a 33 as a number, why not make it int array? Why to make it a string array? Tejaswini, this question is for you. Can you answer? Why this string? Why this args is a string array? Why not make it an int array if I am passing 33? Anyone else can answer? Anyone else can answer this? Why this args is made as a string array, not a argument is of type string? So whatever we do on this panel, like you type anything, these are strings. These are string. That Java first and 33 is a string. So for command prompt, everything is a string. Array instance of class string. Tejaswini. No, that was not exactly what I was asking. So whenever we type anything in here, even if it's a number or it looks like this or maybe even this, these all things are treated as string by your system, and when it goes inside a program then it will be appropriately handled. We have to handle it, the data. So now if I want to give, let's say I want to give input as this kit, or if I have to give the input as 2 3 let's say 4 1 0 2 3 2 3 4, then these all are numbers, right? But the system will take it as a string as an argument. There was one more question, argument because string data type for both character, and then why we can use string in main method after that. So this works only if we have called the method of class in main. Harshit Doshi has asked me something. So this works only if we have called the method of other class in main. No, I didn't get it. Harshit, can you repeat your question? What do you really mean? Are you meaning that the second dot Java file will be, it will look for the second dot class file only if I refer that class? Is it what you mean? Yeah, okay. So obviously, guys, if you are not referring anything, if you're not referring anything, like if this is the code that you're compiling, why would somebody go and look for second dot class file? There is no reason to look for. Like, suppose you put 1,000 classes in your folder. Is your compiler going to compile 1,000 .java files? No, it will compile only those .java files which are required by your application or which is required by your program. Unless and until you are not referring to something, it is not going to look for that. And if you write the class in here itself, then your program will 100% will generate the dot class file for this. Now if you compile it, 100% the second dot class file you will find there. But if you are not writing in the same file, then you will get it only if you are referring it from your program. Harshit, have I answered your question? Sir, out नंतर printf आहे ना. Oh, we can use that printf. Naneshwar has asked me the question. Out नंतर printf आहे ना. हो, आहे की. आपण, if I am not wrong, I think many of you can recall in one of our
Hello.
hello, hello.
Yes, sir.
हाँ बोल. Who is this? Hello, hello.
हाँ.
हाँ,
Hello, sir.
कौन कौन है? हेलो.
Hello.
हाँ.
System dot out print LN आहे का ते सर ते नेमकं काय आहे ते प्रिंट फंक्शन आहे ना ते
नाही रे, प्रिंट लाईन म्हणून फंक्शन आहे.
जावा मध्ये प्रिंट लाईन यूज करतात का आउटपुट साठी
हो, आपण यूज करू शकतो. करतातच असं नाही, आपण यूज केलं आता.
ठीक आहे म्हणजे कंपल्सरीच आहे का ते
तेच म्हणालो ना, कंपल्सरी नाही आहे रे. आपण यूज केलंय, कंपल्सरी नाही आहे. आपण बरेच ऑप्शन आहेत, त्यातला आता आम्ही हा वापरलाय. ज्ञानेश्वरच ना?
हो
ओके, म्यूट करतोस?
हो
येस. ओके. So let me clear this. Let me delete all dot class files. Fine. And then I've, let me say Java C, then first dot Java, Java first, and say what I've done wrong. Okay, I haven't passed any argument. I'm trying to print argument. That's why the error came. Either I should pass argument, I'll remove this because argument discussion, it's not in this focus right now. So let me recompile and then Java first. So we can use printf too. That is what I can say. So it is one syntax that I chose to display the output on the screen, print line. What it does is it prints the data on the screen and then it goes to the second line. But if you are so comfortable with the printf, you can use printf, no issues. But the printf has its own adversaries. Like if I want to display something called as a number, then I may have to prefer a style like going %d and then passing the variable like I. Whereas in printf, println, print line, what we can do is we can directly go and say plus I, which is a very preferred choice by uh, programmers who are writing code in Java. I said preferred choice, not a compulsory. Fine. So Naneshwar, have I answered your question? Quickly type this in chat box. Please repeat the explanation of compiling first dot class and how compile find second dot class files and from other. Yeah, I'm going to re-explain that, Ishwari. The same question is also been asked by who have asked this. Hey, let me put check. The same question is already been asked twice. There is a need for other class files must be in the same directory. Was the question from Parth? Your question is quite related to the question from Parth. I dived into this println and printf because of the question from Mr. Naneshwar. So let me ask him whether I have cleared his doubt. You can type your answer in chat box so I can proceed with this multiple thing. Okay, there is no response from okay, fine. Naneshwar have said yes. Now see guys, why I skip the printf is one reason. I have a strong like say sometimes special events get memorized and you just never forget them. I still recall that in one of the data structures lectures when I was writing a code for stack, one fellow from your class asked me that, sir, in Java, we can do it very easily and there is no printf statement. We have just println and go with the syntax of writing plus I. And in that session, I wrote a Java program and I showed that, okay, printf statement is still present in the Java and we can use it. So I really thought that you people are also able to recall that printf is present in the Java. So I skip that discussion. And neither it is very important because when you understand Java a bit more, you can go and explore what are the printing options available on the screen. So that was the whole story. I just ignored about printf statement because I've showed this statement to your class in one of our data structures lectures in the last year. That was the point. Then it's really do not make any difference whether you are using a println or printf. It's just with which you are very comfortable. One important part, f that printf in the case of Java comes from something called as formatter library. We are not yet starting formatting of the output. When we are interested in formatting the output, we have to dive in more detail. And that time, printf will make more sense than println. So we will wait for that particular time. Fine. So let's go and answer the other questions. There is need for other classes must be in the same directory. So Path has asked a question whether my earlier let's restore the earlier program. Let's restore the earlier program. So this was our case. And now my program will go on looking for .java file. It will go on looking for .java file, right? And then it will compile it. If it do not find the .java file, then it will go on looking for .class file. Now we do not have any class file. And if I remove second .java file, this is not going to work. So the question is, there is need for other classes must be in the same directory. The answer is partially yes. Now why I'm saying partially yes, we are just started exploring Java. So there is something called as a class path setting. We haven't seen it yet. Soon we will see what is a class path. There is another concept called as packaging. So we are not seeing this concept in this session. So if when we start using packaging and class paths, that time you can keep your classes anywhere in your computer. Like your first will maybe in the C drive, second class might be in the D drive, third class might be in the E drive, and you start compiling the programs from the C drive. Still your computer will go and find where is the second and where is the third. For to do that, you have to do something called as a class path updation and packaging in your program. When you do it, that time your compiler will go on looking for these classes where you have set the path, class path. Till that time, the compiler will always look into the present directory. It will look only inside present directory whether it will find that class or not. If you create, let me go to the directory first, like Python packagings for exe pathwalk. Okay, so Python, honestly, Python packaging I have never created, so I can't compare Java packaging with the Python packaging. I have to go and see how Python packaging works, and then only I will be able to relate it with the Python packaging. Fine. So when I teach you Java packaging, what we will do is we will ask Parth to explain what are the differences between Python packaging and Java packaging, and that will help me in future sessions. Will it be okay, Vag? Will it be okay, Parth? Parth? Hello? Hello? Great. So Parth has agreed. So I really don't know how to use packaging in. I haven't created, not known. I haven't created. I haven't tried it. If I try it, I will be able to come up with what are the differences. But let's keep the focus on Java in our story. And when we finish up with the packaging, when we have a person who knows packaging in Python, and he can come up with the differences what he may find. That may be extra, completely extra session. So let me go in our folder where I have created APLB sessions. And now see the first .java file and the second .java file are in the same folder. That's why they are able to find each other. Now if I create another folder, let's call it as new folder, or let me rename it. Let me rename it to something. Have I selected? No. Let me rename it to subfolder 1. And if I move this second .java file in the sub, then also the program is not able to locate it. Then program will not be able, the compiler will not be able to locate second .java file because it's not in the exact directory. Till this point, once you learn how to set class path, how to create packages, from that point onwards, compiler will be able to locate sub1 folder and the files which are inside sub1 folder. So that is the answer to path. And the second question is, please repeat the explanation of compiling files class and how compiler finds the second file from other files. Okay, fine. So let me go in detail again, one by one. Let me delete this. Let me close this. We have a file. Uh, Path, have I answered your question? First of all, can you type a quick? Yes, okay, good, great. So let's answer the second question, which is, uh, please repeat the topic on how the compiler goes on look for the file. Let me close the chat box so the entire screen will be visible to you people. Fine. So first dot class file is been first dot Java file is there, and now if I just compile it, it will create a first dot class file. Now what we will do is uh, we'll write class second in the same file. We'll write the class second in the same file, and I'll call the method as static void data, and here we'll write system.out.println. This is data. Fine. We are writing the code inside the second class. Now both classes are present in the same file. Now if I compile my source code file javac first.java, you will find that okay, I've done pass the I variable. I should have deleted it while discussing. This was written when we start discussion on printf. So javac first.java. Fine. So it compiles. Now see, we have compiled only first.java file or first, but it created two separate class files, one for the first and one for the second. So what compiler did is, as soon as it finds the compilation process, there is a presence of second, there is a presence of two classes in the same file, which is the first and second. So it automatically compiled both classes. Even if I have not made any reference, because the source code contains, this single file contains two classes, it compiled them. Then let me delete this. Let me delete this. Now CLS, I will say javac first, right? There is no reference, sorry, javac first dot java. So there is no reference to second class. There is no reference to second class. So it will overwrite only first dot class file, but the second dot class file, which is already created, is present in my computer. Now what I can do is, in my first class, I'll say second dot data. Now we have seen that we have written a class second which had a method called as data inside it, right? And when we compiled that program, earlier version of the program, the second dot class file was created. Now let me clear the screen and say javac first dot java. Now, astonishingly, the program do not have definition of a second class, but still this program got compiled. Why it happened is your directory have earlier compiled version of second.class file, and what it does is, what compiler does is, it first looks for the same source code, then if it do not find it, then it will look for second.java file, then if it do not find second.java file, then it will look for second.class file, and the third condition has been satisfied. After it finds the second.class file, it will go and look for the method called as data. Let's find whether that method is present or not. That method is present. So I can execute Java first, and it will call the this is data method from class second. This is the compilation process. Look for the class in the same source code. If you do not find it, look for the .java file with that class name in the same directory. I repeat the point. Look for .java file in the same directory. If you do not find that, again look for .class file in the same directory. If any of if any of these three is met, then you will find for the method. So once you locate the second class, then the second task starts whether that class contains the data method or not. If that class contains the data method, your program at a runtime during execution will call it, otherwise it's going to fail. Have I answered your question? Ishwari, who had asked the question, have I answered it? Did you get it, or still there is some doubt? What if second is present in some other file? Yeah, it's going to work. So let me write it. Let me call this second.java. Okay, it's going to create a text file. Better, I should from here only create notepad second.java file. And in this, let's not make class public, class second. Let me write static void data method inside it again. And if I write here system.out.println, this is data method method from second. Fine. This is second data method from second. Now if I save this, and now let's recompile everything Java C first. Now what happens is your first.java, when you compile it, it have made a reference to second. Now it looks for the same source code. It's not present. Then it looks for the second.java file, which is available. Then it compiles both files, and it creates two separate .class files. Now I've changed the output bit. This is data method from second. In the earlier program, the output was only this is data method. Now let's find whether the .class file of the second has been overwritten or not. So let me say Java first. And can you see the output? The second class file is overwritten. This is data method from second. The new output has come. So we have again a question. What if second class file is present? Ishwari, have I answered it? Have I answered your doubt? Yes, okay, good. So we have my meeting may end in 5 minutes. So if it ends abruptly, again, we will start in the next session with the same thing. So I have to take another question from Shubham. So what if my first .java file, Java has a class named second, and also my new .java file having second dot, both Java files are in the same directory? Great question. So what happens is, I just said that, let me open up the CMD. Actually, I answered this question in this, but in C++ we can call methods by object dot method. We can call. So Atharva, if you have not looked at this method is static, and in C++ also, when you want to call a static method, you have to follow this style. Sorry, let me give the method name. So this was the style in C++ for calling a static method. And when the method is not static, that time you call the method like this. However, in Java, I am making use of this static keyword. And we have spent an entire session to discuss just why the main method is made a static. So I'm making a main method static, this data method static. I said that I will not create any object till this session. So that's why I'm making data method static. Obviously, if I do not make this data method static, this is how I have to call this method. I have to create an object of the class and then call object.data. But I made this method static, so I do not need to create an object. I can call this method using class name like this, second colon data, but this is the C++ style. Java style is second dot data. Have I answered, Atharva? Got it. Great. Hope you pay the attention that this method is static. Otherwise, the whole discussion will go in vain. Let me take the question from Shubham again. Sir, what if my first.java file has a class name second and also my... Okay, I was actually going in that discussion before taking the second question. Let me remove this. So, if you can recall, I said that look at the output. It has overwritten the second dot class file. Whenever your compiler finds second class, it will update the dot class file version. It will recompile it. For example, let me have class second in your same program and write the method as static void data, and in here I'll write something called as uh, system.out.println. I'll write only one word, data. Fine. And then I'll recompile everything, CLS. So Java C, first dot Java. And if I say Java first, can you see the data is coming only? So compiler have overwritten the dot class file. Now what compiler did is it looked for the second class in the same file. So it find it, so it recompiled it. The dot class file was created. Then if you delete this and now if you recompile it, then compiler do not find any second class in the same code, but it find the file called as second.java. So it used it and then overwritten the dot class file. So what happens is if I run now Java C first, if I run now, you see the output as okay. Have I compiled? Yeah, it has found the dot class file, so I have to remove this star class. Sorry, del star dot class removed, and CLS Java C first dot Java. Is there file present in the directory or not? Second dot Java is present. Second dot data. So have I made any mistake? Let me go to the second class second static void data. It is present. And then CLS Java C first dot Java. Yeah, I think I have made some mistake while typing the command. Java first. Now if I hit enter, it uses the newly generated dot class file. So that is going to happen if you have multiple versions of the second class. Whenever you compile your program, the version compiler finds the first, it will replace the dot class file with the